Well, congratulations, Jordan Matthews. Just got the word that he was called up from the practice squad with the Panthers, and just excited for him. A great member of our community and alum whose career has been so impressive and continues here forward. So congrats to him, and we'll be pulling for him. Yeah, chance for us to go on the road again and look to the last two here to finish the season, hopefully with some momentum. I'm excited for the opportunity to compete against South Carolina. I think this is a team, obviously I know they're not pleased with where they are in terms of their record. There's still a lot of skill on that field, and there's good players. There will be challenges for us when you look at them on offense. You know, they've been really effective passing the ball. We know Spencer Rattler is a great competitor and has challenged us. I think when you talk about defending him, you have to keep him caged up. You have to vary his looks. He's got some talented people that he's throwing the ball to as well, and that'll create some matchup challenges for us, but excited for that opportunity. In terms of our offense, I feel like this is a week where we need to pay attention to building chemistry and connection in the passing game. Just coming out of the Auburn game, felt like whether it be the protection issues or throwing routes when they were open, not before they were open, or throwing them open, seemed to me like we just held on to the ball a little too long. And there are going to be opportunities for us, just like there were a year ago, offensively against South Carolina, but it's about us fine-tuning the things that we need to be good at to have a chance to execute and again be in a competitive game in Columbia. So injury-wise, really holding true. Demarion Thomas will be likely out this week. That came up today. Quincy Skinner working his way back, was able to practice today. It was good to see that. CJ Taylor still week to week with his knee. He's back involved in terms of individual, but not yet 100%. And so we're giving him time. We'll see how he responds as the week goes. And really, that's it as far as updates from Saturday. Christian James has been fine. And the rest of the guys are looking good. So happy to answer questions.
What does the quarterback situation look like this week?
Well, AJ Swan has been able to practice. Yesterday and today he's getting back healthy, which is exciting. I don't right now anticipate anything changing for us in terms of what we've done to this point, but I always want to leave room there just because it is about getting the best 11 on the field. So, Ken's raring to go and running with the ones. Walt's, preparing for a piece of the plan on Saturday, and then it's good to have AJ back in the competition. And so we'll see how the week shakes out. But again, happy for AJ to be back feeling better, and also been pleased with Ken and Walt.
What do you think is behind the offensive line regression compared to last year?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, I as we look at it, we feel really good about the people in that room. We've dealt with the loss of Junior Zebu, who was a starter for us a year ago at tackle, and that's meant we've moved Ashmore out. And he's playing out of position a little bit at tackle, though I think he's responded admirably and done a nice job out there. We lost a couple other pieces from a year ago, but on the whole, we felt like that group returning intact was going to give us a chance to move the ball offensively in the run game and in the passing game too. I feel like the protection on the whole hasn't been. I mean, I was really disappointed on Saturday with the level of pressure and then the sacks, obviously too. I felt like Ken didn't have time, and it's frustrating because when you have an open route down the field, you know, and you need your quarterback to work through a progression, there has to be an understanding for the 5 guys up front plus the running back of how we're going to pick it up. Now, I think some of the run game issues have been a little bit the development of the backfield. I think we're bringing along a couple of freshman backs that are doing a nice job, but are learning about aiming points and learning about how to cram a run for 4 yards that then becomes a breakout. I thought we did that really well a year ago, and I think that's just part of their development. Those guys are also a part of the protection, like I said, and so getting that group of people, those 6 guys, the backs and the offensive line, on the same page is important. But yeah, I mean, I think it's we've been disappointed in some of the communication, some of the twist pickup. I think teams have done a nice job of scheming against us, and we got to be better. And that it starts with how we coach it and teach it and learn it and train it, and then needs to show up for us on Saturday.
You talked about not having time to work through progressions. It's easy to say, well, okay, make quicker throws and do this or do that, but how realistic is that at this point in the year? Because you make your offense in August, and a lot kind of flows from there.
Yeah, it's I have not seen. I use the word like consistency to describe that group, that offensive line group, where it's and our protection. At times we have provided ample time to get the ball down the field, and we've been able to be explosive as a result. Other times, again, and it seems like it comes on us in waves, we are not on the same page, we cut somebody loose. It's rare that it's been like a one-on-one matchup that we just lose up front. Jacob Brammer's the other guy that was with us a year ago that's not with us this year. But what teams are doing is they're creating 2 and 3 man twists, and to me where they're having most success is those twist games coming against our guard, center, and guard. And those 3 positions, now it could be a fundamental technical breakdown in one of those 3 on a twist play, or it could be a communication issue or seeing things the same way. And right now what we're doing is juggling that group of people to say which 3 give us the best chance. To go back to your question, certainly we have to find answers outside of like this square peg round hole idea where you're just going to keep doing what you're doing, and ultimately if it doesn't work, I think we had 6 total 3 and outs in the game, 8 consecutive drives at one point that finished in a punt. I mean, that's hard to experience. I think sometimes too, that doesn't mean we need to go conservative. There's other ways to get the ball out and down the field and to stretch the field, and so it is finding the balance, Chris. I think it's certainly shuffling the deck in there to say where's the best 5 for us to do the things we want to do offensively. And then I think it's designing around your flaws too, to say, hey, we're not able to do this very well. How can we get the ball out sooner? How can we create other options for the quarterback? I think when we went into the Georgia plan, it was all about how we use the backs to chip protect and try to make sure that we're not leaving anyone on an island. And I felt like we had success doing that. We've shifted gears a little bit that way to say, how do we get the ball out of the quarterback's hand by getting 5 out, and using 5-man protection a little more. It's the give and the take, and there's no quick fix. I think it's trying to enhance in all those areas, but certainly we take ownership of the design to design it better so that we can have success.
When looking at your depth chart, your first 4 backs are all under 200 pounds. Does that make a difference in terms of what you can do with in terms of pass pro coming from those guys?
We expect those guys to be able. Yes, you're not wanting to put like full slide and put them on a defensive end, right? At 220, 230 pounds, you're going to see more of that. But we expect those guys to be able to nose up a second level blitzer. Like that's not something that we shy away from. Sometimes, especially with the young guys, like we had a play, a sack. In fact, it was the fumble where we Ken fumbled the ball on the pressure. It was a delayed entry by the linebacker, and that's just again a young back in the backfield making assumptions about the linebacker's lack of early pressure and getting into a release. And in those situations, again, what happens when you don't have the trust, if you're Ken, is you start to speed up your process and your progression. And so some of those things we're learning through the experience of it. Certainly, we don't put the backs in positions where they're blocking interior linemen or defensive ends, which I've seen done over my career. But we expect them to be able to pick up a second and third level blitzer, and where we've been good at that, those guys have shown the ability to do it. Where we haven't, I think it's less about their physical size and more about their awareness that they're building through the snap exposure.
You've mentioned a couple times that there are things you would have done differently about the South Carolina game 2 years ago. That having been obviously your first season and one of your first close losses, is there anything that you kind of learned from that game or that you take from that game now?
I'm trying to remember what I was talking about 2 years ago. I think.
The fourth down.
Yeah. So look, anytime you've got a 3-point lead, and you get to 6 on a field goal, you introduce winning to the opponent, right? Their mindset becomes a touchdown at extra point gets them the win, and so I think it does shift the approach of the opposing play caller. I think in the moment for me it was about let's set up to defend as much of the field as we can possibly defend, and not leave them within range on a field goal to tie the game was the thought. I don't think those decisions sometimes become, you're right when you're right, you're wrong when you're wrong, and I mean it's just this, not a lot to do about that in hindsight. I do think an aggressive call there is to go for it, and the other part of going for it in that situation, I forget exactly. The ball was maybe right on the 12-yard line. I forget. But you are putting them on a long field. And I think inevitably, just like we saw in the Auburn game, and I mentioned this after the game too, when we start possession inside the 15, you recognize that your mistakes are magnified in those areas offensively. So you get them to start a drive backed up, and maybe they're a little more conservative in their thought process. I think they started their drive on the 25. I can't remember Aria specifically, but and then the other part of the change to me, and we've designed around this, but we had a lot of 3-man rush there through the kind of middle of their drive where we gave them time and they were able to find spaces. And in that situation, it's a chunk situation. You got to be able to keep the ball inside in front of you, and you have to they were out of timeouts. You have to force them to churn clock and to use the time to put pressure on them. And when you let them out with explosive plays in that scenario, you're really putting yourself behind the 8 ball. So some tactical things I would have changed, and again you can look back at the decision to kick, and be critical of that too. I think there's reason to be aggressive in that situation. That's not to say that I wouldn't do it again. I think it helps knowing the outcome that I would have reversed it. As far as what I learned, I mean, again, I think it's those any loss you're going to learn any game you're going to learn something from. I mean, that was a painful one. That group had fought really hard to be in that position. Had come from behind, had a couple of chunk plays early that we had absorbed defensively, where we settled in. Offensively, we were able to create some explosives, if I remember, in that game. With the lead late in a 4-minute situation, you want to be able to put it away. But it was a tough one. We're a long way from that, but again, we're hoping to put that level of pressure on our opponent this weekend. That's going to happen with a focus on who we are and what we do, and that's how we've started the week off.
Is Davian Davis kind of moving on from football at this point?
Yeah, he's still around, and obviously emotionally connected, but just has gotten to a point with the knee injury where he wasn't able to do what he needed to do. And he and I spoke about it and spent time. And obviously this is a guy that's loved football, and football's defined a lot of his life to this point. But he's got so many incredible traits and personality characteristics, and care and concern for people. He's been obviously a leader in this program since I've gotten here, and I think even before I was here was a voice of strength, and he has got a lot of really cool things ahead of him. I think he'd be a fantastic coach, but he's right now looking for opportunities in service of other people, and I'm first of all proud of him and happy for him. But yes, he's not able to continue because of the knee, sad thing, but also I'm excited for him and what he has down the road.
I know there's 2 games left still, but with most of the season done through 10 games, what do you think you've learned from this season? What are kind of your broad takeaways?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot, and for the sake of being able to process totally, I think that this becomes a great conversation on the back end of the final 3 weeks. But I think just to answer the question, because it's a really good question and I appreciate it. I talk a lot about learning in my role and learning in my job, and how I feel like I've got a bunch of opportunities to reflect back and say, where are areas that I can strengthen in my responsibility within this program to ensure that we're putting the best possible product on the field. I also think that we are experiencing the feeling of what it is to actually build a program, and to build it in a way that's not overhauling a roster, but transforming a roster through recruiting and authentic relationships and development. And that stuff takes time. I think we're and I've said this before. We're not set up to be transactional, and that's part of design and intentional. But it's also no different than us building the stadium. We're creating opportunities and resources for this program to modernize it and help it to adjust and adapt to what college football is becoming. And so, we will have opportunities to obviously continue to progress the program. Our results have taken a step back. It's been frustrating that way. I think there are underlying stories that tell some incremental growth internally that we're going to obviously look at and celebrate. I think we have a chance to build upon that in the off season, looking in the portal and seeing where there are areas we can add and strengthen, and also strengthening our approach in terms of name, image, and likeness. That's something that modern college football has to incorporate. And my aim since taking the job is that Vanderbilt's a place where you don't have to compromise in anything. And so we don't want to establish a program that undermines or undercuts the ability for our players to have a top 15 education, do it in a city that's a world-class environment, and do it in a football classroom and on the football field in the SEC. We don't want these guys to miss out on chances that our game offers them now with name, image, and likeness. And that's also going to give us some opportunity here to both retain and also add and just continue to strengthen what we have. And so that's kind of a surface response. What we need to do in this program is create competition everywhere. And ultimately, through competition, you're going to get the most and the best out of everyone that you have. We need to be really dialed in and true to that developmental model. And that means in the way we train, the way we teach, the way we learn, the way we coach, that we're bringing guys along that have shown flashes of really strong play that are still young in the program. I mean, we talk a lot about first and second years players on the field for us this year. Well, next year that's going to be second and third year players, but we'll still have some freshmen that will come in and contribute. We need to be better equipped to support and to grow those guys earlier in the year to give us the best chance to have success on Saturdays. And there's a lot of other things, Robbie, but just in honor of the question and just some surface level thoughts there for you.
Anything else?